I think my talk is a little bit different, but I'd like to really focus on continue to be human in this new world of automation and AI, and what has been really important for my team to keep the quality of work that we expect to output in the walls of Squarespace. We've read all the headlines and LinkedIn posts about these company leadership mandates of integrating AI work tools and workflows, and we're not immune to that at Squarespace. But there are a couple of tenets and principles that I've basically carried throughout my career that really applies to this new era as well. So I just wanted to share a couple of those today and hopefully can inspire you to also remember to infuse that as you continue with the great work that you all do. The first is to be curious, but to stay stubborn. So I started my career over on Newbury Street over 20 years ago with a very scrappy but incredibly talented and funny crew of people at a digital shop called the Barbarian Group. At the time, we were solving some of the most impossibly creative problems, and we were most excited by briefs and projects that came to us where, we often scratched our heads around, can we do this? Can we make this work? And that really set the tone and foundation for how I've approached creative problem solving and creative collaboration. The reason why we were able to solve a lot of these problems was because these folks here, they were masters at their craft and they were masters at their tools. And that's the most important thing, is that they were able to figure out how to push the boundaries of a creative idea and an execution because they knew exactly what kind of tools they can use. Technology will continue to evolve, and it's not going to be any different from when we were using Flash to using AI these days. And by understanding how to use these tools, you actually regain the control back to how do you shape the output of your work. The other half to this equation is to be staunchly stubborn. Once you have that control over the tool, you are able to identify the opportunities where the tools actually work. But it also is very incumbent of you to really understand who you are and have a strong point of view of where your brand sits. Squarespace has been building their brand for over 10 years now. We're continuing to tweak and polish and refine. And we actually just relaunched our brand site, brand.squarespace.com, Squarespace Foundations, as kind of a stake in the ground for not just for the public, but for internally as well, to let everyone know who we are. And regardless of the tools that you use to build your product or any of the creative work we do, it needs to come from the same place. And I wanted to share a little bit of what my chief creative and brand officer sent to our internal organization when we launched the site. As new tools change how we work and create, Foundations grounds us in what we've always believed, that taste, human creativity, and a clear point of view matter more than ever. It gives shape to how these principles comes to life, from typography and color to photography, motion, and voice, not by making everything look the same, but by ensuring it all comes from the same place. So understanding who you are will set you apart as a brand from all the potential, what they call slop out there. It gives you a bar for quality and for you to critique the work to make sure that you are standing out and representing who you are. The next big piece to this is never to forget to train your juniors. One of the dangerous false promises of a lot of these tools is to be able to create work from the moment you put in a prompt and you can just take the output. If we forget to teach train our juniors, we lower the bar for excellence and we lower the bar for what good work could look like, especially for your brand. If you're at an agency, it's incumbent of you to understand where the bar is for your clients, but even for your agency, what kind of work do you want to put out there for all your customers? When we started rolling out AI tools for our workflow and for our teams, we wanted to make sure that we're still requiring the same level of preparation and care as any traditional way of execution work. We want to teach them, understand what the clear vision is. What is it that we want to achieve at the end of the project? Do we have a point of view of the lighting? Do we have a point of view of the set design, the styling? And then even before you start cranking open your mid journeys or runways, you want to have a pre-pro deck. We want to make sure we exactly know what steps along the way so we can critique along the way before we get to the final output. Because the amount of time that you're going to try and tweak things later is going to be even more time than if you were to just do it what we have traditionally done. And then lastly, I think taste seems to be the new core skill. Taste has always been around. We've always had tastemakers. Culture has always been shaped by taste. Trends have been shaped by taste. I feel like if we don't take the time to train, more crucially, those who are coming into the industry, we actually risk of being able to critically think and judge the work, which then leads to taste. So without that, without being able to tell a copywriter to specifically look at every line that's being said, or an art director to understand why the references matter, everything's going to just look the same. And then lastly, I think especially for the leaders in this room, we got to protect the creative process. When I was talking to Black Math initially about this talk, Stephanie had reminded me of this Subway ad that is everywhere in New York right now. I have blocked the brand, so sorry if this is they're in the room. I'm sorry, but this is the risk, right, for those who are not in our industry to think that there is a one-to-one comparison for the work that we do. That you put in a prompt, it's going to take away all of the mess, and then you get the most perfect output, and it's going to save time and it's going to save money. My argument is that the creative process is messy and should be messy. As a producer, that goes against everything that I've been trained to say, but really good work comes from marinating on ideas and giving space to the creatives who need to go away and then come back and argue and look at things on the wall. Sure, there's time for iteration and there's time for, we use a lot of our AI tools to validate concepts. We are able to more quickly come up with storyboards and see if it actually works. When we ideate for Super Bowl, for example, Super Bowl is in February. We kick off in the summer. And that's because we go through rounds of ideation. We go through rounds in front of our chief creative officer and our CEO. A lot of ideas still get killed, but that's okay because we're always just trying to find like the dumbest idea, and that takes time. So my hope is that as you see some amazing work today, and there certainly are, and we are in the AI world, it's inevitable. I don't want to sound like a Luddite, but we are here. But as we integrate these tools, I just want to remind ourselves that there are still some human factors that go into the creative space that we're in.